Rolex is a Swiss luxury watch brand based in Switzerland. The company was founded by Hans Wilsdorf and Alfred Davis in London, England in 1905. After World War I, Rolex was forced to move its operations to Geneva, Switzerland due to the heavy taxation in post-war Great Britain. Rolex would later be renamed to Rolex SA. It is now a multi-billion-dollar brand that is privately owned by the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation. Rolex has become a symbol of success as most of their watches cost over $20,000. They are known to be made of quality materials that hold up for years. You've probably seen them on many rich and famous people as a status symbol. Some of the more popular people seen wearing Rolex are Rihanna, David Beckham, and Miley Cyrus. Even former President Barack Obama wore the Rolex Cellini, a more subtle choice for while he was in office. As you can see, a luxury brand like this deserves a proper introduction. So, with a brand that has stood the test of time and is good enough for presidents, athletes, and celebrities, what are some things we don't know about Rolex? Before we begin, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you get updated every time we post new videos. With that being said, let's dive right into it. Number 9. Patents and first to market. Rolex was credited as the first wristwatch ever to receive the Swiss Certificate of Chronometric Precision. This achievement was granted by the official watch rating center in Bienne. This basically means their watches told the exact time. In 1926 came the first patent for its first waterproof watch called Oyster. In 1945, the Date Just feature was introduced to the watch. It indicated the date in a small window on the dial. In 1953, the Submariner became the first diver's watch that was waterproof up to 100 meters. This was quite an accomplishment as nothing like this had been done before. They are known for trademarking the Paraflex shock absorber to help protect the watch from shocks. Number 8. Used in World War II. During World War II, Royal Air Force pilots were buying Rolex watches to replace the standard-issued ones they'd been given. However, these were confiscated when they were captured and sent to POW camps. Upon hearing this, Wilsdorf offered to replace all the watches for them if they sent a letter explaining their circumstances and where they were being held captive. Over 3,000 watches were offered from POWs at Oflag 7B camp in Bavaria. This helped boost the morale among the Allied POWs and build brand appeal amongst American troops. It was rumored that the Corporal Nutting who ordered the Rolex 3525 Oyster chronograph, the most expensive model at the time, used it to time patrols of prison guards during the Great Escape. Nutting was only billed €15 for the watch due to currency export controls at the time. Number 7. James Bond ties. While some real-life celebrities have ties to Rolex, fictional character James Bond did as well. In the 14 Bond books, the author mentioned Agent 007 wearing one brand in particular, Rolex. When the movie started coming out, the actors playing Bond all wore Rolexes too. While the sources vary on what watches were worn during the movies, it's the only watch good enough to be found on James Bond. Number 6. Murder investigation. In the famous Ronald Platt murder case, the Rolex watch he was wearing was enough to give detectives the information they needed to crack the case. When his body washed up in the English Channel, the Rolex watch was the only identifiable object on his body. Because the Rolex had a serial number and special engravings each time it was serviced, police were able to trace it back to its owner, Ronald Platt. Since the watch was waterproof and had a reserve of 2 days of operation while inactive, police were able to determine when he had died. Number 5. Charity and philanthropy. Rolex is actually a global charity. This gives Rolex some major tax cuts. Since Hans Wilsdorf didn't have any children, his main focus was on growing Rolex. He made sure the company didn't have any future owners or shareholders so the company could continue to grow and reinvest profits. All the shares of the company went directly to the foundation. However, before you start thinking of scams, they do actually help people. They have 2 foundations, the Rolex Awards for Enterprise and the Rolex Mentor and Protégé Arts Initiative. The first was launched in 1976 to give financial aid to those in the fields of science and medicine, technology and innovation, exploration, environment, and cultural heritage. Young persons who showed great promise would be selected by a panel of judges and provided with aid and resources to assist with their endeavors. In 2002, the Rolex Mentor and Protégé Arts Initiative was created to help young artists from all different parts of the world spend a year with a one-on-one mentor. Number 4. The Rolex name means nothing. Contrary to popular belief, the Rolex name doesn't stand for anything. Much like the IKEA name, Rolex came about through some inspiration one day while Mr. Wilsdorf was sitting in his office. It just popped into his head. He liked the overall simplicity of the word and that it sounded like something expensive. It was also easy to say in any language. Sometimes the best names are the ones that don't mean anything, and Rolex is proof of that. Number 3. It takes close to 1 year to make a Rolex watch. Rolex watches are 100% handmade and take up to a year to make. This is why they cost so much. You may be picturing the watches going down a conveyor belt while being pieced together, but you'd be wrong. Each watch is crafted individually. The watches are so carefully designed that Rolex is only able to outsource a small part of the production process to machines and robots. Extensive testing is done on each watch to ensure quality and craftsmanship standards are met. Their commitment to excellence shows why customers are more than willing to pay such a high price. So, next time you're admiring someone's Rolex, take a little time to appreciate how much work went into making that watch. Number 2. The cheapest Rolex is $2,200. Air King is the cheapest Rolex available, and while it is still a nice watch, it runs quite a bit cheaper than the rest of the lineup. Rolex has always been known as a high-end watch brand, but in the 1980s, a high-end Rolex watch was only $900. The 80s was also when people began spending more money on shiny things. However, within 10 years, that same watch was around $2,300 with minimal improvements. Rolex soon figured out by raising prices and paying close attention to details, they would be given an edge in the market. Customers will now have to pay between $8,000 and $10,000 for an entry-level Rolex watch. Maybe it's time to start looking at eBay. Number 1. Here's how you can tell a Rolex is fake. Did you know strippers are trained to know if a Rolex is fake? Huh, who knew? Here's how to spot if a Rolex is fake. A real Rolex's second hand will sweep gracefully, ensuring that it is real. If the second hand stops on each second, then it's fake. Also, the Cyclops lens on a Rolex magnifies the date. On a fake Rolex, the date will look the same. Thirdly, if the watch just looks like it's made out of cheap materials, you'll know 100% for sure it's a fake. Rolex watches are made of the highest quality materials available. Well, we hope you enjoyed our video on 9 things you might not have known about Rolex. This video should give you a better understanding of the company and how they got to be so famous and expensive. Not only is Rolex a beautiful watch, after World War II, it became a status symbol in Britain. Now, in 2020, it's a brand known worldwide that people love. Thanks for watching.